What is up, my ducks and drakes? Welcome to the Crowded Lake. Today I'll be reading chapters 5 and 6 of Tomorrow, a Cedar Sides fanfic by Bekka911. If you'd like to support the author more, go ahead and click the link to their Wattpad in the description below, or the link to the fic itself if you want to read along or anything like that. Something I've been neglecting to bring up during this entire time is that I put trigger warnings in the description. I've been forgetting to do that lately and forgetting to put that in the video at all, so be weary. With that, going on to chapter 5. It took him a while to push it all down, and Patton was ashamed of his selfish feelings. He wanted to hate Thomas, wanted to grab his host and shake him hard enough to forget the callback, because now there was a sick feeling in Patton's chest that he knew wouldn't go away until, well, after the date. Stupid emotional do-good Thomas. Stupid emotional do-good Patton. You know, you did the right thing. Deceit's voice was slippery and low, weaving through the shadows. You have nothing to feel guilty about. Patton took a deep breath and tried to squash the urge to just deck the liar in the nose. You're not allowed in my room, Deceit, so I'm going to pretend you don't exist until you go away. Deceit murmured a soft laugh. Denial is such a dangerous thing. Patton, be careful. Michael in the bathroom, he sang quietly, flopping onto his bed as if he had not a care in the world. Oh, who am I kidding? You have nothing to worry about. Michael in the bathroom at a party. No, you can't come in. Deceit's voice went soft and soothing. The shadows stopped twinning around him and settled. Patton tried not to let his unease show. You think you can protect him forever. Please reconsider. And then he was gone. Patton let out a shaky breath and just blinked up at his roof. It was soft and fluffy, kind of like clouds that didn't do anything that clouds normally do. Usually, they calmed him. Now, they suffocated him. I'm waiting out till it's time to leave, he sang quietly. I'm picking at grout as I softly grieve. Stupid, stupid, stupid. He needed to go somewhere. He knew realistically that he could approach any of his friends, announce he was in again, and they would rather smother him with love. But something held him back. It wasn't Deceit. It wasn't. Patton had no trouble denying Deceit's involvement in his current indecision. Maybe Logan knew what was wrong. Making up his mind, Patton stood up, still humming Michael in the bathroom, and opened his door. He hesitated, 1 foot over the threshold, but he bit his lip and soldiered forward. It wasn't to prove Deceit wrong. It wasn't. Logan would know. Logan would help him. Patton clung to the thought as he walked the hallways of Thomas's mind, knowing that Logan would be in his room doing work. The logical side strictly followed a schedule, and he hadn't planned to be out of his room until lunchtime. Hey, Logan. He gave a smile, an uneasy smile, that was slightly strained at the edges. Can you help me with something? Logan, ever the secret sweetheart, nodded silently and put down his pen, motioning for Patton to sit on the bed. What seems to be the issue? He asked kindly. Patton hesitated, because what if Logan thought it was stupid? What if it was nothing? What if Patton was just overthinking it? He shook his head and went to stand up again. You know what? Never mind, it's nothing. Patton? Logan sounded stern, but warm, an odd combination that only Logan could achieve. You seem distressed, and I hope we've learned from the nostalgia videos. Please, sit down and tell me what's clearly upsetting you. Fine. Patton sat back down, heavily, letting out a whoosh of air. I'm I'm sorry, he said immediately. Logan frowned. Over-apologizing or premature apologizing can often be a sign of anxiousness about a situation or topic, he said. You have nothing to apologize for, Patton, and therefore I must draw the conclusion that you feel overly wary about broaching a certain topic with me. I assure you, there's no need to worry. We've talked about this, Logan, Patton said with a wet-sounding laugh. There was not tears in his eyes. Less dictionary talk. My apologies. Patton sighed. Close enough. There's something wrong with me, he began slowly, and though Logan's expression tightened, the other side didn't interrupt. I can't handle confrontation right now, which is odd because I've never shied away from standing up for myself, and Deceit said that I have to be careful of denial, but I don't know what I'm denying. That's so bad. I mean, yeah, I feel bad about pushing Thomas to go to the wedding when he doesn't want to, but that doesn't mean anything, and Deceit's always trying to mess with me, and my chest is hurting at the moment too. Does that mean anything? And Logan held up a hand and said calmly, Breathe, Patton. You're okay. Patton followed the breathing pattern for anxiety attacks. Okay. First off, there's nothing wrong with you. What's happening here is a case of denial and repression. What? Let me explain. Repression can be the thought of as the active but subconscious act of forgetting unacceptable drives, emotions, ideas, or memories. Think, well, the Duke. They both grimaced. Patton prayed Thomas never encountered that part of his personality. Denial is ignoring, or lack of acknowledging, outside events. Deceit, Thomas, the whole courtroom scenario, yes? Patton nodded. I follow. Unsurprisingly, these two, repression and denial, are often confused. Nonetheless, these two work together quite often, and may be difficult to disentangle. Denial isn't dangerous per se. If limited and focused on a singular specific thing, it wouldn't have much of an impact. However, if a force or reoccurring physical thing is forcing to become stuck in denial about multiple situations and settings, it becomes severely unhealthy. Do you understand this? Patton simply nodded again. He didn't trust his voice. Patton looked down as Logan continued. Repression is slightly more wholesome because of its mental attributes. Repression can cause severe mental and emotional issues that will become larger issues later on. It may have a part in depression, anxiety, so forth. So, I repress myself too much? Patton asked, because that's what it sounded like. Logan hummed, and moved his hand in a so-so kind of manner. While repression sounds scarier and can be more damaging easy, denial isn't to be disregarded. It's very easy, alarmingly so, to start pretending that everything around you isn't happening. It's like walking into a burning building and thinking, nope, this isn't happening, and walking back out. You're not helping the situation. And you could have done something had you not denied it was happening. Yes? Okay, Patton said. How do I stop? I think right now you need to focus on your repression. Logan's face softened, becoming slightly more sympathetic. Don't ignore your feelings of betrayal, of guilt. It's okay to feel these things. There will be no negative backlash, and it's clear they are affecting you negatively. I suggest going to virtual enrollment, though. I'm not the best for emotional comfort. It helped. Patton nodded, feeling less panicked now that he knew Deceit had been wrong. Everything was fine, but why does my chest hurt? He asked very quietly, voice small. Logan looked at him for a long while and whispered, because your heart hurts. Huh, Patton thought, wiping away a few tears. Guess he doesn't take everything literally. Chapter 6. Through the next few days, Patton thought of little besides Logan's words. They swarmed him, blocked him inside his own head as he followed his routine on autopilot. Perhaps Virgil said things, perhaps Roman called his name. Patton heard none of it. Was aware of none of it. Unhealthy? Sure it was. But Patton didn't feel his hurt as bad when he was like this, so far withdrawn into his own thoughts that nothing else had enough impact. Patton was... He was okay. He was okay like that. Still, the words repression and denial settled onto his skin like brands, and he could feel them on him. Surely the others would notice, would call him out on it. They didn't, though. At least not that Patton noticed, so he figured life was pretty okay. On top of his own musings, on top of Logan's too easy explanations, Patton was still troubled by Deceit's words. Denial is a dangerous thing? What was he denying? Really? He agreed more with Logan's theory of Patton's repression of his own emotions, but denial? Patton was certain that denial had nothing to do with it. It was silly how easily Deceit could unnerve him. Maybe it was the way he twisted the truth, the way he could dance around saying what they needed to hear and just told them what they wanted to hear. Deceit didn't have to outright lie to be dishonest. Add on the fact that Virgil was still struggling to let go of his past. Patton was thoroughly and obviously disgusted by the darker sides of Thomas. Oh, he wasn't ashamed of the man himself, but the fact that such filth existed alongside them? Sickening. No, that's not how he thought. He thought in sunshine and rainbows and good times and optimism. Not cynical and angry and bitter. That was Virgil's job. He loved his dark, strange son. Optimism. Fine. He could do that. He was optimistic that Thomas could learn to control his deceitful side, perhaps eventually terminating the slippery snake altogether. Wishful thinking, maybe, but it was optimistic wishful thinking. Yes, Patton was just fine. It was still hard to break through the cloud of what if and but how and wrong. His thinking was still trapped in that small cloud of gray, where snakes hissed and something laughed, and Patton was frightened in a way he hadn't been frightened before. But Patton wouldn't let himself be trapped in there too. Not in spirit. Logan could help with his thinking. Patton couldn't let himself give up. Not like that. What would Thomas be without his morality? Where would they all end up if Patton just left them with Deceit? How far would Thomas go into the darkness Patton kept him from? He couldn't. He wouldn't. He could handle this. Nothing was wrong with the way things were. He was keeping Thomas on the moral high ground. He was dealing. And he wasn't thinking about Deceit. Stupid snake. You know, Patton, you're an astonishing complex being. Patton sighed at Deceit's drawl. Apparently, even thinking about the liar summoned him. How inconvenient. Deceit's smile was all teeth. When I imitated you the first time, it was almost too easy. Too boring. How dull it was to play you. What with that others rendering you nothing more than an over-emotional fool who knew nothing about you? Not true. He's a liar, Patton. It's not true. Patton took a deep breath to calm himself, and starting to hum Dear Evan Hansen. Deceit giggled. Like, actually giggled. It was more unnerving than it had any right to be. Deceit's scales glimmered slightly. Patton wondered if he was slimy. If he was, that was disgusting. Such a power you hold over them, the deceiver said quietly. Such a power you have over Thomas. You're truly the most important side. Stop it. If I were to imitate you again, it would be far more difficult, I expect. Deceit didn't falter, even as Patton's humming got louder, more frazzled. So many complex layers. Tangled emotions. Denial. That one's my personal favorite. Seriously. Cross my heart. Patton didn't condone violence. under any circumstances, but right now, Deceit's face was looking very hittable. I think that you're only scary because we don't want to admit what you mean for Thomas. He was proud that his voice didn't waver. Deceit raised one perfectly shaped eyebrow. Seriously, did he insist on such a ridiculous level of personal grooming? Even Roman wasn't that bad. Listen, I don't want nor need you hissing in my ear all the time. Just go away. But, Patton, dearest, why would you send me away when I'm the only person you can trust? Patton scoffed, even as a knees prickled somewhere just past his wrist. Trust you? A dishonest man you could always trust to be dishonest, Deceit quoted. Honestly, it's the honest ones you should watch out for. Patton just sighed. Had Virgil and Deceit watched the movies together or something? Pirates of the Caribbean? He asked, reluctantly amused. Wouldn't have pegged you for the type. There's so much deception and backstabbing in those movies, Deceit responded coyly. How could I not love them? Movies aside, the quote is relevant. I am not honest, but you can trust me to be dishonest. Can you trust the others, Patton? Can you trust that they won't lie to you, hurt you, and twist you around their fingers? Could he? Already there were instances he could think of where the others had been less than honest. Roman insisting he was fine when he was hurting. Virgil's snarly, angry words he didn't mean because he was hurting. Logan refusing to listen to reason because he was hurting. But that wasn't like Deceit. Deceit wasn't hurting. Deceit just wanted to cause trouble, but Patton wouldn't let the liar affect him. If Deceit was the snake, then Patton was Adam. He wouldn't be tricked into eating the apple by the snake. You'll be tricked by someone else instead, his subconscious whispered, and Patton shut out the thought right down and pushed it into the gray area of his thoughts. He raised his chin, looked right into Deceit's eyes, and said, You don't bother me. Deceit hummed, the playfulness suddenly gone. He looked darker, somehow more ominous and angry. And yet, I bring out your anger, he hissed. I bring out your aggression. I bring out everything you despise in yourself. Think, Patton, and wonder why it is you're always so defensive around me. Denial is a wonderful thing. You don't bother me. Do you want me to lie to you, Patton? Do you want me to say that I won't break our friendships apart, that I'll leave you alone, that I'll forget about Virgil? Do you want me to say that I'll let Thomas forget me, so you can feel better about yourself? You don't bother me. Deceit bared his teeth, eyes alight with savage wildness. You won't ever outrun this, he swore. This is a truth you must bear. And then he was gone, and Patton was left in that cloud of gray. Deceit didn't bother him. He didn't. Patton blinked, fixed his cardigan, and walked out of his room. He had to cook dinner. They needed energy to keep Thomas going. Everything would be fine. Was fine. And tomorrow would be better. Yeah, tomorrow would be better. Thank you all so much for listening. If you'd like to listen to more, go ahead and subscribe. I post Wattpad Wednesdays every Wednesday, obviously. And if you'd like to support the author, those links are once again in the description below, along with a Google form, so you could tell me what kind of fics you'd like to hear me read in the future. The rules to that are in the Google form. My socials, if you'd like to support me, are in the description. Stuff like my Discord, Wattpad, Twitter, and even my Etsy shop, where I sell cool beaded things, like cuffs and necklaces and kitty ears and backpacks. I have a fun time on there, so if you want to go and do the things there, I please encourage you to. Once again, thank you for watching, and much like Patton trying to talk to Deceit, do your best!